Good evening and welcome to SISTABIZ. Good evening, Nicole. I'm Tamara Brown and my
Hey,
co-host, Nicole. How are you?
hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. So,
Good,
happy
good.
Mother's Day to you.
Same to you. Same to
Thank
you.
thank you. How was your Mother's Day?
It was good. This is the 16th one. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah. And just, I guess, like 44 with my mother. And, so it was good. It's a good day to, celebrate the women and things in our lives and stuff. So, restful. Rested, and of course, I always, you enjoy the roses and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah, we enjoy the
celebration.
rest. We
Yeah,
always enjoy the rest.
yeah, no.
Yeah, and that's great that you're able to celebrate with your mother. So happy Mother's
Mhm,
Day, belated Mother's Day to everybody in our audience,
mhm,
and we hope you had a wonderful day.
right.
We know that, like, Nicole and I were always running to just get on the show with all the things and all the responsibilities we have as women. And, I think all women in general have so much responsibilities. And then Black women, I always feel like we just got a little bit more because we deal with a lot more. So I did want to just emphasize that new phrase. That wasn't a catchphrase when I was younger, but the whole self care. We want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and doing things for ourselves, whether it's running a bath or just taking a day where you're not cooking and cleaning and doing everything. I like to encourage my friends to like use a cleaning service, even if it's once every 2 months or something. Just give yourself a break because we don't have to do all those things all the time. We're not going to be great at everything and work and take care of kids and home and family and husbands and significant others and partners. So I hope everyone had a great Mother's Day. And those that are not mothers, I hope you still had a great day and you got a lot of rest, right? I tried
Amen.
for Mother's Day, I went to, I actually tried out a new, I don't think it's new, but it was a new location for a Black esthetician, a Black woman esthetician, and she owns Pretty Pretty Skin, and it's in Owings Mills, Maryland.
Okay.
And yeah, it's so dolled up in there. Like I like all the girly stuff.
Mhm.
So just the decor itself, I was good with it. But to see a Black woman, it was on Mother's Day. Like literally on Mother's Day, she was working. She's a mother. Her staff was in there. Everything ran like it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. Again, it's called Pretty Pretty Skin. I think they have a Facebook page. I'm going to try to get her on the show, but she's running that business. Like if you look at her Instagram account, if anyone in the audience has like a lot of cystic acne or anything like that, she you see dramatic changes. She does really good work. So I enjoyed some time there, and then I rested the rest of the day. So yeah, again, another woman
Wonderful.
owned business, a Black woman
Yeah,
owned
yeah,
business. Yeah.
yeah. Important business too, because we need those massages. I know I do.
Yes, yes, everything is there. The
Mhm.
facials. She was talking that a lot of the services that the white businesses offer, Black businesses weren't offering that for us. So she tries to get a lot of different things in her. A lot of her services are what we aren't normally offered in places. So she really tries to step a step above, so we get the same services that maybe women in LA are getting. That don't look like us. So
And I
yeah.
think that's important is definitely knowing your niche market, knowing what your competitors, possible competitors, what they offer, and bringing it full circle where it's something different. Because that's what's going to keep pretty much your doors open is to be different, to
Right.
offer that, because of course people do want to patronize businesses that they're familiar with, so.
Right, right, right. So tonight, I did want to disclose to the audience we don't have a special guest. Nicole and I are going to be talking. We're doing some educating on women in business, statistics, just some things, some conversations that we think that are important. And if you are online, we're going to ask a little trivia question, and we do have a prize that we'll send out to the lucky winner. So we want our audience to engage on Facebook Live. You can make comments, and we'll be able to see them. Like you have a little timeline just to answer the question. But we do want to educate you guys tonight, and then we do want to talk about some local issues in the last half hour or so. So I did want to ask Nicole, as we're talking about Black women in business, about you're running a business, and we don't often talk about that because we're always interviewing other people. And you are in a market that I haven't seen, a lot of, or any really. You're, AC packing and shipping. I don't. Are there other minority that own those type of businesses in the city?
Not there is my competitor, I guess if someone wanted to say, he's Flagship, which is across on Guilford Avenue. But what sets us aside from his location is that we're also international freight forwarders, so and as well as motor carriers. So we have a curring aspect of our business. We probably have some of the largest contracts shipping seafood here in the Baltimore City market, which, kudos to them over there. I won't say their names, but, so we're a little bit different than what he offers. He's a straight kind of like a UPS store. He does have every carrier up under one roof, in which we do too. But we have that freight forwarding aspect where we work with clients all over the world. So that's kind of what sets us aside from we not only have the domestic carriers, but we have the international side. We just really got heavy into the couriering side and signing up with some different warehouses so that we could also offer last mile delivery. So I'm hoping by this time next year we'll be able to employ at least 10 people full time. So.
And they will be local.
Yeah.
If I know you like I know you, they will be local.
Yep, they will be local. They will be local.
That's wonderful. And that's all we want to see is our businesses growing. And what you're doing, you stepped into an area that was needed. There's a niche there. And you're doing a great job and you're evolving your business.
Thank you.
And we talked about that in the contracting, the minority contracting seminars we had I think it was this month. Yeah, for 4 weeks that we had. And if you weren't able to catch that, you can always catch it. Look at the videos on YouTube or Facebook. We had a really good session on that. And some of that was that discussion of evolving your business and stepping into different comfort zones. But I see your posts, like you're always doing something in advertising and marketing and trying different things. So congratulations to that. And you also do development as well.
I do. I really mostly work for myself, like anything that I'm particularly interested in. And of course, like family members and stuff. I don't really work for the general public doing anything. So it's pretty much mine.
Look at you. And then I think are you going to get into the restaurant business next? Or
I did. We just purchased a restaurant location. So I'm thinking about it. If they allow me to franchise, I would like to bring what's called Just Turkeys. It's a franchise that's in California as well as Chicago. And basically it's everything turkey. Turkey hamburgers, turkey tips, turkey everything. So while I don't eat meat myself, I remember eating there and the food was good. And it's just a different spin on food, coming to the West Baltimore Street area. So we'll see. Right now, if he lets us franchise, so we'll see.
That is wonderful, Nicole. Again, you're an inspiration to so many Black women that watching probably didn't know all that you're doing, and then you still show up every Wednesday from 7 to 8 to provide, education for our community. And still active in the community, trying to be an activist, just always doing the right thing. So I certainly want to commend you for that. And congratulations. I look forward. I don't eat meat either, but you should have like a vegan version of something.
Oh, yeah, right. We need that. Definitely need that.
Yeah. Okay. So talking about Black women in business, now I'm going to be looking down a lot and I always hate to do that, but I am not a computer and I can't spit out statistics, but I do want to back everything up that I'm saying tonight with statistics. So I found a study done with the Harvard Business Review, recently wrote an article, actually yesterday, about Black women being most likely to start businesses than white men. And so the whole premise of the article is like, why are so many Black women starting businesses? And so I'll give you the statistics. So in the United States, an astonishing 17% of Black women are in the process of starting or running a new business. That's compared to 10% of white men and 15% of white women, 10% of white women and 15% of white men. Yet, despite this lead, only 3% of Black women are running mature businesses. And so to understand why this steep drop off occurs and how to combat it, they analyzed data and interviewed more than 12,000 people. So the statistic is high, and we're going to get into our next conversation we're going to be talking about Black females running Fortune 500 companies. And so, so basically they're saying that, you know, we know that there's a lack of funding for our businesses, and typically Black women are starting businesses with their own money, their own startup money, and that's why they're not mature. And again, in the Black contractors classes that we had on this network, we talked about that, like just not having access to capital and not much being able to mature our businesses, and businesses not being ready, you know, for prime or contracting, just not being ready. And it's no fault of the business owners, because I'm also going to run some statistics on the education level of Black women running these businesses, or just in general, are very high. So it's just basically the lack of capital and support. So what do you think about that as far as like our businesses, why we're all running our own businesses, why the statistic is so high? What do you think it is?
I think it's a lack of respect in corporate America. Many of us that have been on that side, you go every day, you give it your all. As a Black woman, as a minority, period, you have to give 110%. Just to get credit, you know, for maybe 75. I mean, people don't want to accept the reality, but that is a reality. And I think that as Black women, you know, one thing that I hear people say all the time, oh, that's a strong Black woman, you know, and as women, why is it that Black women have to be the only ones that have to be raised to be strong? You know, we have to, a lot of that goes into it as well, you know, because we're not being respected. We're supposed to be able to handle 10.5 million things on our backs, juggle our families. And if we got to give that 110%, the world that we're supposed to be so strong all the time, then many of us think that we might as well run our own. And I get it. I 100% get it. I kind of pops off to our businesses not being mature, because a lot of times we're doing everything. We're the marketers. We're the couriers to the post office. You know, we're doing every aspect. A lot of times we're the CPAs. You know what I mean? Thank God I'm not that. You know, and we're the attorneys. We're using LegalZoom or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of times our businesses are not mature, you know. So I think the lack of respect in corporate America, number one, you know, it is the reason why we do decide to branch out on our own, because you're doing it anyway 110%, and you're probably only getting 50% respect. And then, you know, it just kind of drops off because we're doing so much that it's like you can't be a master of everything. You know, you can't know everything. My accountant tells me stuff all the time, and I'd be like, never knew, you know what I'm saying? Because that's his job. And I think that that's kind of where we drop off, because a lot of times accountants are expensive. You know, attorneys can be expensive. And it's like finding those people that can help grow your business is very hard and very rare. And then we lack a lot of trust, you know, of other people, because you see so much. So I think that we have to let our guard down sometimes and ask for help, because again, it's that whole strong Black woman thing that a lot of times, you know, and it's cool to be strong. There's nothing wrong with being strong. I consider myself strong. You know, I go to the range and everything, you know, but my thing is that it's okay to ask for help. And I think that that's where that number kind of dwindles for us, because we've been taught for so long, you know, and sometimes we have to let it go.
Right, you are absolutely correct. That was my assessment of it. When you look at the statistics, you were talking about corporate America, statistically, and you know, I wanted viewers to guess how many Black female CEOs do they think are in the Fortune 500 companies. And Fortune 500, of course, it's 500 companies. So out of 500 of the top performing companies in the United States, what do the viewers think that number is as of today? And I know that last year it was 0. So
I was thinking 3. Dang, 0.
Take a gamble at what do you think the number is today?
Isn't it like two? Because the lady for FedEx, she's one, right?
No. So,
Oh
so
boy.
no, not acting, not interim, but an actual CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
One.
I believe she was an interim. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So as of today, it's actually well, we'll give the viewers a chance to answer how many. If you want to answer in the comments, we'll give you one minute or so, or less than a minute, a few seconds to answer how many Black female CEOs of Fortune 500 companies do you think there are as of today? And hopefully somebody answers so I can coordinate sending a prize
Two.
out if you were
Is it
right.
two?
We're gonna get, okay, 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Any goers? You're right. It's 2. And that was really just as of last month, because the 2 CEOs that are running companies right now is Rosalind Brewer. And Rosalind Brewer was actually the COO of Starbucks. And she's moved over to Walgreens Boots Alliance as the CEO as of March. And then the next CEO is Tashonda Brown Duckett, who she just took the helm a few weeks ago. And she is the CEO of TIAA. I think it's a teacher's, some kind of financial institution. So that's it right now. And as of last year, there were none, because Rosalind she's been a CEO of other corporations like Sam's Club, but she was not the CEO as of last year. She was a COO. So, and so of all time, since Fortune 500 has been documenting this, how many Black females do you think have run Fortune 500 companies? And it's been since, I think, 1955. Fortune 500 started this list. They published the list. So how many overall Black CEOs do you think there were?
5. I'm going with 5.
Okay. So since 1955, there's been 19 Black CEOs. And but it's actually, those were some interims like you were discussing. So actual CEOs were 15. And that's
astounding.
That's astounding, right?
It is.
So now you see why the statistic is so high for Black women to start their own businesses, because you don't really have opportunities in corporate America, so you have to make your own opportunities, and we're forced to do that. And so you were talking about like education wise, Black women, I think I have another statistic here. Black women, okay, so across all ethnic groups, female students earn the majority of certificates, associate's degrees, and bachelor's degrees. And this report came out in 2016. They take a group of years and they study education for a cluster of years. And so, for example, the shares of Black bachelor's degrees earned by female students were 64% for Black women, 61% for American Indian, 60% Hispanic, 59% students of 2 or more races, and 56% white students, and 54% Asian Pacific Islanders. So Black women led in that area of all certificates, associates, bachelors, like all degree areas. So it's not an issue of education. It's an issue of opportunity and a lack of opportunity. And that's why we end up running our businesses, but then we've got the lack of opportunity and resources. So it just really is very challenging. And I think that as a Black woman, I can truly say that we often don't feel supported. And I do agree with you with being that strong Black woman. If you go into the workplace and you're too strong, you're looked at as being angry, and you're always looked at as being angry or too, so if you are not, you're too passive and you're going to pass up on promotions. Whereas it's just very challenging. There's no balance. You just never know what any organization wants. And so I commend Rosalind. I want to talk more about the CEO of Walgreens, because she has done a remarkable job. She is also the director of WBA's board. Ms. Brewer, she was the first sitting board, Black or woman, period, sitting board member at Amazon. She served as the president and CEO, like I said, of Sam's Club. And she was in executive leadership with Walmart prior to that. So she's been a CEO of Sam's Club and she's COO of Starbucks and now the CEO of Walgreens. And she started with Kimberly Clark in 1984 and is a graduate of Spelman. So it just goes to show, she really worked her way up, but it's so rare. It's really, really rare. And the study that I read in the Harvard Business Review also said that they try to look at maybe there's just not a lot of availability of Black women in the workplace to promote up. And that wasn't it either, because we are, of course, we're in the workplace, we're working, we're always working and holding things down. It's just they just don't have you tiered in those type of in that level where you're moving up. They don't have you in that management track. Typically, you're just not going to be in that management track. So that's a disadvantage that we have. So opportunity is very important. And I encourage anyone, to just keep pushing. If you are in corporate America or if you are running your own business, just try to sustain, because we're all going through the same thing.
I think support is very much needed. Whether it's from your local levels, your state levels, your federal levels, those programs are can be detrimental. To have to a business, especially when people just want to focus on their craft and focus on what it is that they offer to the public. And they don't necessarily have the tools to do business plans, and some people just want to do business. They don't know how to do business. And I always say that. And I think that that's why it's very important for people to kind of take the time, and have those different organizations to assist. I think it's imperative to have that.
Right. So one of the large areas that the study did was what areas are Black women starting businesses, and it was in the retail industry, in the wholesale industry, the beauty industry. There's also in contracting, and we talk about that a lot. Again, in the Contractors College that we hosted on this network, that Donnie hosted on this network, they talked about a lot of the problems. And I do encourage anyone that didn't see it to go back and watch it, because it was very informative. If you are running a business, or just to know what's going on with your tax dollars, just to know how it's impacting people that look like you and I. And so it's really, really important to know that. And that's why we have this network, to actually give you the truth on what's going on. And I know that you and I often talk a lot about the opportunities. You would think that the city we live in, a majority Black city, that there's so many opportunities for Black men and Black women. I mean, you're doing great. You're doing it on your own, and you choose not to deal, a lot with the bureaucratic system. Unfortunately, a lot of our businesses aren't going to survive without going through that system. And so there's a lot of cause for these systems, for the government to work more for the people, so that we can fix some of these statistics. So we don't have that 3% of Black women businesses surviving, or being mature enough to compete. You can't compete.
And my thing is that, I think that any business, they have that option, I guess, if they want to participate, like with the city, the state, the federal government. And those are great avenues. But they have these certificates and these programs, but is the playing field level? Like, if I give all my information to the city, am I going to get a contract? And I mean, looking at what I look at and what I looked at today, and listened to the Board of Estimates, and then I turn around and I listen to the Board of Estimates, on previous occasions, and that's not what I'm hearing. So I would never be convinced to want to. And I mean, granted, I had the gentleman on the show. I guess that he's doing an MBE program and stuff, and I was curious, but as I've consistently looked into the program, I don't see how it would benefit me. Baltimore City has never extended their hand, whether it's the administration, whether it's any form, any facet. The Baltimore Development Corporation, one time. But I mean, honestly, my own city councilman has never, you know what I'm saying, has never extended his hand. We've had to reach out to him to no avail. So, I mean, for me to want to even participate, to do anything with the city, would be ludicrous at this point.
That really astonishes me, because we started the show off talking about how successful your business is and what a niche market that you're in and how rare it is for people of color to even be in that market area, and how your business is growing and you're expanding and doing so many different things. And it is unfortunate that your business isn't supported by your local representatives. And Donnie made a comment, it's saying that it's all about relationships. And I do believe that, however, that is not the proper way to do things, because there are a lot of people that don't have relationships with a city official or anyone. And that does not mean, like, nowhere in the Baltimore City Code, I'm going to speak specifically about Baltimore, nowhere are we, what I see in the code, you can't get this opportunity unless you have a relationship. It's not written anywhere. It's not a law. It's not a requirement for you to get certified. It's not a requirement for you to bid for a contract. And if it is a requirement for you to be bid for a contract, then people should go to jail, because it's you cannot have, you're not supposed to have relationships with those members when you are competitively bidding. You're just not. It's supposed to be neutral, and it's supposed to be anyone can win the contract if they're the lowest, most responsive and responsible bidder. So it shouldn't preclude you from opportunities if you don't have a relationship.
Well, I mean, I don't know what kind of relationship I'm supposed to have with my local city councilman. He lived 1 block behind my store and he's never set foot in it. So, I mean, like, he's my neighbor, you know? So, I mean, teaching him how to be a neighbor, even when we had a car crash into the store, it's kind of like crickets, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I had to pretty much threaten lawsuits, against the city for bollards in front of my store in order for them to allow us to drop them after this vehicle hit, because I was prepared to go class action. We've had over 20, car accidents at my location right there on that corner, and still crickets. So I had to say, hey, I'm going to bring the data and I'm going to sue the city on behalf of everyone that's had an accident here if I don't get my bollards. And I got my bollards in front of the store, and they started working on the street, and that's where we are. They're working on the street. So, I mean, but I don't know how much more neighborly. He's a neighbor, and he's never set foot. You know who came to the store? The one that was running for mayor, TJ Smith.
Oh, does he
I
live
don't
in
know
that
where he
neighborhood?
lives. I know,
Oh,
not that I know of.
I forgot where he lives. I did do my
I
research.
don't think he lives there, but yeah, he came to the store. And what was the other lady, the Caucasian lady that ran for mayor?
Mary Miller.
Mary Miller, and I didn't know who she was because I can't vote in the city. You know what I mean? So I was just like, okay. I mean, but for them to come to the store, and yet you have this man that lives right behind you. That speaks volumes.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. We did have Councilman Christopher Burnett on last week, and he was talking about how he's still keeping his feet on the ground, and he did bring one of his businesses on the show, and I did say how rare that was, because usually when you're interviewing a council person or someone running for any office or a representative of a certain district, they don't typically bring a business member that is in their district with them. And he knew this was about Black women in business, so he brought a Black woman in business on the show with him.
He's a unicorn.
Yeah, and that he shouldn't be a unicorn. We should have more representatives like that, particularly in a city like this that's traught with so many issues, and we have so many barriers we have to climb, and we can only climb them together. It's not an individual. It's going to have to take a real team, and we just don't have that team mentality here. Unfortunately, everyone's out for themselves, and that's going to be a detriment to our city. There's been shooting after shooting after shooting after shooting the last few days, and it's just not going to stop. Now, I don't expect the mayor or the chief of police to put on a red cape and become Superman and stop crime as they know it's about to happen. We don't expect that, but there has to be some dramatic change, and it has to start with opportunities. We were talking about that at the start of the show, just opportunities. I think if Black women businesses were functioning more, you said you want to hire up to 10 people next year. That would be 10 more people employed. I know that we engage with a lot of people returning citizens coming out of jail. that don't want to sell drugs anymore. And they'll tell us, look, can you help me get a job? And I tried. I actually was trying. I knew there was a position open in the city in the maintenance department. And I was trying to get a young man a job because he did have that background. I didn't want him to go back to selling drugs. And he, unfortunately, isn't with us any longer. I couldn't get a job for him. And he would call me sometimes and say, look, I have to do what I have to do because now I have a record. And now I can't find a job any other way. The city's supposed to have like, well, in the state of Maryland, they're supposed to be able to interview you. What is check the box? You know, they're supposed to be able to hire you. And he couldn't get a job, and he went back to the streets, and he's not with us anymore. He's become another statistic in our murder. He's probably on Murder Inc. at some point. So that's the cycle. And if the city doesn't get a little wiser, and I do see that this administration is bringing a lot of people in from outside of the city, and I hope that at other levels they're looking at people that actually live in the city to employ them, because our unemployment rate is higher than anywhere else in the state of Maryland.
Well, that in itself is a slap in the face, to continue to bring in out of state, help, especially when we have some of the most educational institutions right here in the state of Maryland. This homeless director, that really got up under my skin, coming from San Diego, which has per capita probably some of the largest amounts of homeless people. That I don't understand, when you had advocates that were right here in the city that
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it's an insult.
So they hired someone from San Diego?
Yeah. She just appointed, I believe, like 2 or 3 days ago. And it was astonishing, because I'm saying, how do you go to California, which has some of the highest homeless rates? I don't get that part. I just don't get that, especially when you have a lot of advocates that were right here, that would have been able to, handle that same position, that understand, the Baltimore, issues, whether it's drugs, whether it's, returning soldiers that are on drugs. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, but I'm going to just sit back and watch.
Flowers is a huge advocate for homelessness, and I would have loved to seen her get that job, because she knows, she knows where the problems are, and she's been working so hard. Now, I don't know that she would want the position. Like, we always assume that people want the positions. Some people don't want to work for the city, but I wonder if they even offered her, and I'd have to reach out to her and ask her if they even offered her a position, or not. I had no idea. And yeah, that California does have a lot of encampments, like one of our viewers is saying. There are camping areas in Cali. Yes, what a shame. We have encampments here under the bridge. I saw Christina, I think she kind of cleared that area. I think she's been trying to get people housing, and it's getting better under the bridge in Baltimore. But
well, my thing is that, I mean, she's doing the work. Why shouldn't she get the check? I mean, to bring somebody from the West Coast into homelessness I just want to know her track record, honestly. Like, what has she accomplished? Because
yeah, I've been to the California, Oakland, Los Angeles, all over California, and the encampments under the bridges and all over. It's really terrible, and the housing is very, very high there. So I know that they also brought someone else from California, the director of DPW. Was he coming from California? It was from another state, I do believe. And we have, he's a Black man, but we do have a lot of, we have an engineering school here. So the Department of Public Works did bring someone else from out of state. And I do believe there are a few people coming from the DC area. And those executive positions, they typically, they're in charge of doing a lot, but they don't do the real work. So I do see a large investment in those executive offices. And I hope that same investment is going into the offices that will make a difference in our city. So I didn't have a chance to look over the new budget that's come out this week. If you are in Baltimore, I do encourage you, or any city that you're living in, to look at the budget every year, the proposed budget, and make sure that you show up for those hearings if you have anything to say. I mean, typically when they have a budget and the mayor's office has come up with a budget with their agency heads, it's going to stay where it is. And it's never not really going to change. There's nothing you can really say. Like, you watch the Board of Estimates a lot and you do get frustrated, and that's where the Baltimore City awards contracts. And if you protest it, I've never really seen anything change it. They'll defer it for a week or two because it looks good and, it sounds good and we're going to look into it. But, they've already looked into it and they've already made their decision, and it doesn't change anything. It's just a delay tactic. And I do hope more citizens do tune in to Charm TV and watch those Board of Estimates, or watch them on their Facebook pages. I think Nick Mosby posts it live on his page. But you should be aware where your tax dollars are going. And a lot of people don't know, and they don't know that there's Board of Estimates every Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Watch and see what happens. The agenda for the Board of Estimates comes out every Monday at noon on the comptroller's page. You can look at the contracts, and that's when you submit your protest by Tuesday at noon in writing. So these are things that our citizens should know, because they should be engaged in that, and they should be watching every dollar. Right. So we looked at the 100-day transition plan of the new mayor. And for me, it looks like a lot of positioning and posturing and putting people and creating high-level positions. And I would just be interested to compare in the budget where the work is getting done, if any money is going there, versus, I would like to calculate the 100-day transition plan, how much that cost us, and in new positions, and what they're actually going to result in.
And I guess we have to wait to see. I know he's giving an address. I believe it's next Thursday. So it's telling. I believe it's Thursday the 18th.
I didn't watch the first one. I mean, it's like watching a debate for me, and you're going to just say whatever sounds good. I'm going to watch what you're doing, and I'm going to hold you accountable to the things you say you're going to do. So, watching the addresses, yeah. I'm
still I still have this ray of hope.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad.
I mean, because it's like, it's got to turn around at some point. You know what I mean? Like, I think that if, as citizens, we need to definitely be more informed. We need to start holding our officials accountable. We need to get off of this, if they Black, they're for us, because some of them are not for you. I don't care whether they Black, white, blue, or green. They may look like you, but they're not for you. They're for themselves. And we just need to start holding them accountable to what they said and what their job is. Or calling them out. Like, they call out our district councilman. He gets called out on Facebook all the time. They call him out, tag him. I know I do that. Well, sometimes he responds, sometimes he doesn't, but he eventually will respond, because they just keep going at him. And I think that that's, unfortunately, if they can't reach you, via your email, your telephone, that's the next best thing, except this is in front of the whole world, to see. So we just have to start holding them accountable. And if they don't want to do what they're paid to do, vote them out. And I think that we need to start controlling our votes. We need to stop just saying, he's Black and we're going to vote for them, because so is Candace Owens.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, I could go on and on,
Right. Yeah. So
people that,
but voting, so holding them accountable, and vote, I think part of it is the lack of education of voters in our city in particular, and I think in general. We don't really research our candidates, and we should pay attention. I mean, if anyone's watching the address on Thursday, you should have a little notebook or something, or type it in your, have some notes somewhere, even if it's a digital or electronic, and what is this person saying? And look at where they are 4 years ago. What I found interesting was that when Brandon Scott was the city council president, he also had a plan of some legislation and things he wanted to bring forward. So I have to pull that up and compare that. And I did look at it briefly, and it did look like a lot of the same things were being said then as city council president. And you can't get anything done in a year or two, and you really can't get anything done in 4 years, to be honest, unless you're extremely aggressive. And I just don't see that aggression here, and that willingness to really, you have to really want to be radical and shake things up. And he's not that person. I don't think he's doing that. I think he's just going to play a little safe and just kind of get a few things done. And some of the things written up are just, they look good, but they're not really actionable things that are going to make a difference in the city.
Well, I mean, for me, he knows where the open air drug markets. He came to visit, Zelia's Pizza. And if you come to visit Zelia's Pizza or Zelia's, whatever they call it, I think you should go and walk where they're dealing dope, and people can't come out of their homes and walk around. If you really want to do the work, even if you're walking with the police, try strolling up and down those open air drug markets that's right around the corner from that pizza
location. One up that,
Nicole,
my theory. Mm-hmm. Put your desk there. That should, where the hot spots are. Jane Byrne, you taught me about Jane Byrne. I did not know the mayor.
And she was a white woman. She was a white woman. Yes.
A white female mayor in 1980s in Chicago, moved into Cabrini Green, the notorious projects in Chicago. She literally moved in there because there were like 11 shootings or something that happened that week. And she said, I'm going to move here. And then I think that there was some talk of there was going to be like another huge, a lot of shootings were planned. And then they came in and arrested a lot of people. She unfortunately did not win the next election, which I thought was surprising. And a lot of the Black voters maybe felt a certain way. This white woman is moving into the projects for a few weeks or days, but that's the type of action Baltimore needs. For me, city council, we have 12 city council representatives?
14.
Take your desk, a fold out desk, whatever. That needs to be your office every day until the crime until something goes down in that area. If you all get out, and the mayor's got a security detail, I guarantee you there's not going to be any shootings in that area. We need hands-on leadership in this city. It can't just be theory. It can't be studies. It can't be meetings. It can't be committees. Okay, you need to go sit down in those areas, and that's the only way the crime is going to stop. Like, you need to be present all the time, every day, all the time. I don't think they're going to pull a gun out if you're sitting there. I mean, that's really aggressive. I know it sounds crazy, but in my mind, that's what I see.
And maybe they won't deal drugs the way that, I mean, I don't know if they're locking them up for drugs or whatever, because the police sit there and they watch. They actually watch.
Well, the police have they have a negative relationship with the state's attorney ever since the Freddie Gray uprising. Like, if she wasn't supposed to charge any police officers with anything, I was actually upset because I thought the charges were too light. And so I don't know why they're upset. Someone died while they were responsible for that person. And so I don't know why, but the police unions are very dangerous, and we know that. They're usually run by white men. And so they support that type of behavior.
But they have a boss, like the guy. Like, so if they don't want to do their job, then they need to go. That's just my thing. Like, if you don't want to do your job, you need to go. Whether it's the police, I don't know, is he the captain, general, whatever he is. But why can't he delegate, and say, hey, we keep getting all of these 911 calls. Let's just take Washington Boulevard. Washington Boulevard in the last 10 days has had over 2 or 3 shootings. And this is supposed to be one of Baltimore City's main streets, right? They had a big shooting at Carroll Park, then turned around, a young man killed just 2 days ago, right after that. So you got 2 bodies in less than a week in the same area. It's like, that's unacceptable to me, because if the police, again, don't want to do their jobs, they know where the open air drug markets, they literally sit. It's hysterical. Like, they literally sit and watch this whole street, not that far from my building, like, lined.
So I was very interested in how things were going, particularly with the consent decree. And I tried to look at like a place like New Orleans, where our police commissioner came from. And I know he ran the consent decree there. And I think that was one of the big pitches to bring him here, was that, they have a consent decree in New Orleans, and I don't know how successful he was. I don't think the crime necessarily, statistically, crime goes up when there's a consent decree, because police are afraid of doing certain things. And then on top of that, they have this, again, this relationship with Marilyn Mosby that isn't positive. And so I don't know what it's going to take for them to make arrests. I mean, there's no balance. Again, I am much an advocate. I don't want to see a lot of people in jail for no reason. We had a police gun trace task force that was planting drugs on people. They were criminals. But then they had like this, I don't know, no nonsense. They were just arresting people. And there's no in between. Like, you either want tough policing or you want soft policing. And with soft policing, you're going to get crime, or you have tough policing, you're going to have violations of people's constitutional rights. So it's like the stop and frisk type policing. So we have to decide what we really want. I certainly don't want to see our Black children just thrown in jail for nothing, but I certainly don't want to see our citizens scared to leave their house. So there's got to be there's that in between. I know they're trying to deal with the trauma at an early age, and it takes time to deal with some of these things. But again, if I'm the mayor or city council president or city council member, and I'm always in these areas where I know crime is going to happen, then I think maybe, I can't put that on them to stop crime, but I think we'll reduce in some areas. And then you had someone working in Safe Streets who was running Safe Streets, whose job was to prevent things and to kind of work with the community when they knew there were beefs occurring in certain neighborhoods, and he's shot in his head and killed. Dante Barksdale was killed, and that was his job. So it's unfortunate, but again, I go back. I believe in opportunities. I believe in presenting opportunities, and I think if our businesses were thriving more here, then I think we would see a different statistic. We'd see different statistics coming out, because when the kids graduate and get out of high school, where are they going to go work? If all the contracts are going to out-of-state contractors, and the subcontractors and minority businesses that they are using, they're not using them, where are they going to go work? And that's a lot of money going there, a few $100 million or so going that way. Where are they going to work?
I don't think that it's well thought out. A lot of it is just really not well thought out. And I just don't think that a lot of things that are going on now is for the people that are here. Right now, I think mostly look at the schools. I mean, just looking at the schools, it's devastating. It's like every other day, it's something in there about the principals. The kids can't read. The kids can't. Like, it's not funny, but it's astounding. And I know it was mentioned last week that the funding is not there per student, and I just want to know, like, why is that not being taken to task? Like, why is no one? They did it for the HBCUs, so why is no one like going before and saying, hey, like, we want our due for our students, here in Baltimore City?
They'll have to sue. I mean, they had to sue the HBCUs. They had to sue, and that was a very long process. And so perhaps they need to sue. But again, the city needs to really, the budget is not going to be that creative this year. I can guarantee, they have an Office of Inspector General that's supposed to look at fraud, waste, and abuse. Typically, that Inspector General for Baltimore City won't review anything unless she gets a report. I mean, like a complaint. That's ludicrous. You're there, you're in City Hall, you know what's going on. If you feel something is wrong, look into it. They need to look at some of the contracts. I asked them for years, why don't you review some of these standing contracts? Maybe we really don't need them anymore. Maybe that money can go to the schools. Maybe that can have resources and get better teachers. Or, I do see that, a lot of principals were released this week from their duties.
Only after only a news investigation. Like, it took outside sources to like call Baltimore City out for whatever reason, whatever vendetta they have, to start calling them out to get them to hold these principals accountable. And it's like,
and typically the principals are Black women. So that it's just, again, it's like with the policing. I love my constitutional rights, even though the Constitution wasn't written for you or I, or, but I we have to have constitutional rights. But then on the other hand, I do love being able to walk down the street, not being robbed at gunpoint, so That those are areas, but then we also have like our Black female principals. Like I want to see Black women in those positions, but I don't want to see them in those positions just to get a check. I don't want to see anyone in a position with such a grave responsibility just in it to get a check. I just don't want to see that. Not a city council member, not no one. When you do public service, you have to do your job and to make a change. And to be a principal of a school in Baltimore City is really a huge responsibility. And if you're not doing your job and being transparent and open and honest, I mean, what are we going to do? And again, it's us again. It's Black women. So here we started off this segment talking about Black women running businesses and how unfair things are, and then we get responsibility. We get an opportunity to run a school as a principal, and we just let it go. The leadership of the Baltimore City Schools, Sondalisa, is a Black woman.
She should feel ashamed. She's collecting a check. She should feel ashamed.
And that's where.
I would tell her she should be ashamed.
Well, she knows someone because she is still collecting a check, and we've known it's been a problem. And I'm about numbers and statistics. Show me the numbers. Show me how our schools are doing all the time. I want to see all the numbers, how they're really performing, not the fake numbers, but I want to see real numbers. Who's going in and auditing that? The city does these audits for their agencies. They're not the best audits. I've been part of some of them. Show me the numbers. Show me how everyone is performing. One of the 100-day plans that Mayor Scott has in Baltimore City, I think, was finding someone in each agency to be in charge of this equity initiative. You got an agency head. Why is that an item? Why is that your 100-day transition plan? Why is that? This person is getting paid over $100,000 a year. Close to 200, most of them. Why the hell do you have, I'm sorry, excuse my language, in your first 100-day transition plan with everything else going on to identify someone that's going to be a lead for each agency for equity? What?
Because
that's your agency head. You already found that person. That's their responsibility. Show me the numbers. How's your agency doing? Show me. I did watch some of the board of estimates last week when you brought that to my attention, and I heard, the comptroller Henry saying that some of the agencies are doing well, and DPW has this contract that's going to exceed the minority business goals. Okay, Comptroller Henry, let's make a deal. By next week, can you give me a report on how all agencies have done in FY20, since we're working on 22's budget, approving it, FY20, FY21. Tell me how many minority businesses they use, and tell me how all the contracts are doing.
Well, today
I'm going to start my watch. And let's see if we can get that report. You're not going to
today, they basically said that they had, a prime that has in their fourth, going on their fifth year of renewal. That never used
that soft at all. Soft touch. It's like, we don't want to just talk about all the bad. Look, this agency is doing well on this one contract, and this other one they're going to exceed. No, that's not good enough for this. We don't need that. We need a stiff hand to say that's not good enough. I want all the numbers.
But they count on the people not paying attention. And I think for so long, so many of us, because when you sit down, you think about community, we are at the point now that many of us are chasing, whether it's finances, trying to keep our kids educated as best as we can. And it's so many different dynamics in the world that they can continue to bamboozle, because that's what it is. And it sounds good, get these, different sound bites. And people can hopefully, fall in love with an image to think that we are doing something. But behind the scenes, a lot of things aren't being done. And who's really working for you? And I think that we have to get back to educating ourselves, taking the time, going to listen, because now these meetings are on Zoom. They're on TV. We have no excuse not to be informed. I'm here to tell you, this is probably the most informed that I've been. I'm one of those true, like politics, to me, they all is a mess. But I'm learning, once I had children, I got more engaged with the schools. But I think we have to get back to the basics. I mean, we're all busy, but we all need to be engaged, because the budget was passed today. And it was said that they were passing it because the mayor worked hard on it. Not that they read it.
Comptroller Henry abstained because he didn't have time to look at it. But even if he didn't vote on it, it's still gonna go. I mean,
well, it did. I think it was like 4-0 or abstained or something. But I mean, the reason behind passing it was that the mayor worked hard on it. The mayor and his people worked hard. I thought that was insulting.
That's what their job. But again, can I go back? That's their job. Every year, the finance has to do a report. I mean, it's just we have such low standards here. It's like, oh, you did your job. Oh, good. You showed up, and
we got to hold them
that's not good enough. That's not a reason to vote on a budget. And I'm going to tell you, every week they delay and put off a contract because of something with the minority business. There's no minority business. This, they propose this huge, like, we care about minority businesses, but I'm going to tell you, the office is getting a small bump in it, a few $100,000. But I'm going to tell you, in FY 2019, the budget dropped for the minority business office that makes sure that the businesses that look like you and I are monitored and they get opportunities on the contracts. It went down by like $400,000 a few years, like in FY 19. They're working on FY 22. It's not even brought back up to that number yet. So the mayor, who did run on a platform of saying, he was going to fix things like that, did not increase the budget even back to where it was in FY19. We should be going up. It's still not comparable to other cities of similar size, like size and operating budgets. The comptroller abstained from it, so we can't say anything. The city council president he's saying that he cares about it. They're always deferring contracts because they don't have enough minority participation. But you guys forgot to fully staff the office in the budget. So you're contradicting yourself. Again, your words are not meeting your actions. And those are the things that people need to look at. Don't listen to what they're saying. Watch what they're doing. They're not doing anything. All of that delaying of contracts is bull. It's bull. It's a delay tactic. They don't really care, because if they cared, they would make sure that budget should have increased by $400,000 or $500,000. Their office is increased by $400,000 or $500,000. Those positions that they put in were more than $400,000 or $500,000. The city council president staffed his office up. Why didn't he say, you know what, I don't need all these positions. Let me put it somewhere where it's really going to make a difference with the minority businesses, because I care so much about it. I'm deferring all these contracts. Let me do something about it to fix it.
I would love to hear the answers to that. I did give him +1 today because he was definitely caught off guard. And I saluted Nick to that today. So I would love to hear the answers to those questions from Brandon Scott and from Nick Mosby. I think that they will probably be in the best position, because I think that Baltimore needs to start asking questions. They have to, because right now it's a detriment, where they're losing portions of the city, whether it's the taxes or just people just moving. People are fleeing, and they're fleeing because they can't properly educate their kids without paying, high tuition rates. The taxes, the trash people leave trash all up and down the street. It's
the people mowing the grass leave trash. They mow over the trash.
Oh, the parks are terrible. I don't know who does that contract.
The grass, and no one cares. No one watches that. Those people that are mowing the grass don't live in our neighborhoods. They don't segment those contracts for the neighborhoods to beautify their own neighborhoods and to provide jobs to the people that live in those communities.
They need an efficiency officer, like someone to go through and watch all of that stuff. Well, I am here, so I guess we're just going to end up wrapping it up, for the most. And tonight we talked about just different things happening between, Black women, Fortune 500 women that are definitely, at least we have 2. So I'm proud of those 2. Congratulations and kudos to them. And pretty much, we're hoping, I still hold out hope for Baltimore City. I mean, we have some issues that definitely have to be worked out. And I just encouraged, all of our viewers to definitely stay engaged with, the different Board of Estimate meetings when the mayor is speaking, because we do need to be engaged to the political process, because this is what affects us. Most of us ran to the polls to talk about the president and this is what really counts right here, is your local and your state level. I mean, your federal level, your president counts as well. However, we need to definitely be engaged to what's going on here. And she's back. So I was
You see
just,
what happens when I start ranting too much? I don't know. My computer always does
well,
that.
it was just, that was hope. That was hope jumping over there. Look, like we're holding down hope.
I don't know what happened. Oh, well, it was the end of the show anyway, but I'm glad everyone tuned in. Hopefully, we'll see some change in the city, and hopefully Black women will continue to grow their businesses as we started. Do some research, everyone, about, Black female CEOs. I hope we get more, and I hope we have, much more successful Black woman-owned businesses. Next week, we've got some great guests, so make sure you tune in. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.